As some of you know, I've spent the last 2 to 3 weeks just sleepless nights developing the BusyWorks Beats sampler. So this video is going to show you exactly what it is and how you can use it for your own benefit. So I screenshotted 1,600 people grabbed this in the first 7 days. You guys went crazy over this thing. So I want to thank you guys for your support. And I'll be putting this video up on the actual page at busyworksbeats.com/sampler for anybody who wants to rewatch this video. So firstly, the sampler, the problem that I ran into was, we heard about the native instrument stuff and a lot of cool libraries came out of Contact. But if you've ever worked with native instruments, I've partnered with them on a release before. It costs a lot of money, for one, to even release your own library. That's a huge cost. Okay, it's like $2,000 or something like that. And then on top of that, you have to do this arduous process of sending files back and forth. You have to create all this artwork. It's just very tedious because you have to build for their NKS system. And so after getting frustrated with just the partnership, which I understand some people deal with that, I was just like, there has to be a better way. Now, the whole story behind this is I had a plugin back in 2019. It did really well. Then I went to a developer in 2019. The end of 2019. And it took about 9 months to release my second plugin, which was a home run called Hermes. The only issue is the developer walked away from the project. So it burned me a little bit. And I said, I can't rely on people anymore. So what I did was I created my own system to basically host my own sounds. I do multi-sample recordings, which is how you get that quality in Omnisphere. It's because they sample what are called multi-samples. So you're getting a very detailed sample of an instrument. Okay, so what we're going to do today is go through the BusyWorks Beats sampler. So what is it? Firstly, it's free. The free version comes with the factory library, and it comes with presets that I made for you guys using just the factory library stuff. So let's go through the factory library first, because this is the free stuff. And what we can do here is basically, if you're a sound designer and you know what SFZ formats are, you can drag your own SFZ folder of SFZs for your presets, and you can import them by adding the library right inside of the sampler. So you can create your own library. So I'm making this a platform for music producers. This is more than just me throwing a plugin at you. I said, how do I create a system that we can all benefit from? So if you guys remember Nexus had the different libraries like hip hop, trap, all these different libraries. And then we used to save our own presets in Nexus, but the only way people could open them was if they had the actual libraries from Nexus. So we were selling presets, all types of stuff back then. And you can create your own Omnisphere library and you can create your own Contact. But the thing is, to share it, you have to go through their partnership program to get a license, or licenses, I should say. So long story short, I said, why don't I create a system where producers can sound design themselves, put out libraries themselves without running to the middleman, BusyWorks Beats. I want to create a system where you don't have to do that. So I'm giving away a free version of the BusyWorks Beats sampler. In this free version, it comes with factory sounds and factory presets, and you guys have the ability to create your own library. So you don't even have to say a word to BusyWorks Beats to release your own libraries. That's how I want it to be, because I want this to be a music producer centered ecosystem. Now, if you do choose to partner with me, for example, if you email me at info@busyworksbeats.com, which we got so many emails in the last week, it's so much email. I want to thank you guys for being so supportive of this plugin. Okay, and patient with us because we had a lot of emails coming in. So if you email me at info@busyworksbeats.com, you want to officially partner. The difference is we can encrypt your files so that people can't just copy and paste your WAV files, your hard work, which is your multi-samples. And secondly, we can distribute it for you through our ecosystem. Okay, so those are the two main benefits you get with partnering with us. So I'm making it to where you don't have to go through me. Okay, but if you partner with us, then you can get a greater splash, so to speak. So that's the system I've created. So now that you guys understand the intent behind it, let's get into the sound behind it. So I'm just going to go through sounds here. So here we have your starting blocks. So I call these starting points because we can sound design these sounds even further. So let me crank these up a little bit. All right, so that's just one sound. Okay, now you can click on each layer, like layer A, layer B. You can add more sounds to each layer. So So you get the concept of layering. You can click on layer C. We can add even more instruments. Let's add a choir on this one. And you can control the volume. So let's say that brass is a little too bright. We could turn it down. We could pan it left and right. We can adjust the octave, and we can adjust the tuning as well. So now we can create these full stack sounds here. Okay, and we can adjust the sounds in real time. So you hear that octave jump? All right, so that's the layering system. Now in the library tab, you could scroll down when you guys have more libraries. Again, the free version of BusyWorks Beat Sampler comes with a factory library and user presets that you can load up right away. These extra libraries, these used to be whole plugins that I've created for you guys. So what I've done is the Omnisphere approach, where in Omnisphere, you can import your trillion sounds, you can import Stylus RMX, you can import your keyscape sounds. So I just said, why don't I, do the same exact thing? Why am I trying to create a whole new plugin every time I want to release a plugin? Okay, so I said, let me just create one hub where I can release my libraries, similar to how Contact works in a way. So on the left side, we have Helios. This is a paid library. Okay, so it comes with 100 plus presets. And you see Halo 3D. This is 130 plus presets, or 130 presets. Again, these are source sounds, so we can still tweak these source sounds. In Hypnos is 120 presets, and Hercules, our biggest library, it's 260 presets of source sounds. And the reason I'm showing you this is because this is what the paid version of the sampler gives you, is access to over 600 sounds currently. We're gonna have more in the future, but if you want the full version of BusyWorks Beat Sampler, you just basically have more building materials. Okay, so that's kind of how the system is gonna work. So we have a stack. Now another cool thing you could do is hit init to start back all over. So let's go back to the factory library and let's build over an E-piano sound, for example. So firstly, we have volume control. So we can turn the volume up from here. There's 3 different volume areas. All right, now there's so much to show you guys that I have to kind of jump around. So let's go to the effects tab. Let's say you want to, make this E-piano your own. So let's add some reverb. Now the unique thing about our reverb is we have what's called half speed. This is a technique I designed years ago where I would add a gross speed behind my reverb to slow it down using half speed and blend it in. So I've created that in its own reverb. So basically I turn the speed down -100 and turn the mix up. And it creates a haunted layer. So I'll just wait for the sound to kick in, as you guys can hear. Hear that echo? Okay, so it adds a super, super haunted layer. All right, so it's a really nice texture. You can also reverse the reverb. We can add some more delay in here. Let's turn this up. And what I'll do is create like a really unique spread sound here using delay, using reverse reverb, reverse delay. Okay, you can even add drive to your delay to add like an analog type vibe. Let's add the feedback, and let's even add a texture in here. Now the unique thing here is this AC unit. It almost sounds like you're watching a film or something. So it adds a realism to the sound. So we're going to turn that down, and we can send this through our effects as well. So that can get affected. Now this sound I just want to be as is. We're not going to mess with it. So we're basically making our sound feel real. Let's add some tremolo in here, and let's do it only to the panning. Let's pull this back a little bit. We also have spring reverb. There's so many effects in here, y'all. We have a compressor, which would be useful here, just to tame some of those peaks. All right, so the density is where you add a little more fullness to the sound. Then we have a clipper. For this sound, we don't need the clipper. You also have a stereo width unit, which comes with some unique EQ options there. And then we have a drive area, which this is more for our bassier tones, but that would be a nice. Let me see if I switch the tone. Start to hear that buzzy tone. See how it just becomes a real thing, a living thing. Now on the texture, let's say it's a little too heavy, you can add the high pass filter and just shave off some of the low end so you don't get too boomy of a sound. We could also swap out the texture and give it like crickets, for example. So now let's go more introspective with the vibe. Now the crickets probably don't go the greatest with this specific sound. It's a little bit darker, but I'm just showing you guys how we can blend these textures in and create a unique tone. So like I said, you can even go back to the home page, the main tab, and layer sounds. So let's layer in some kind of handheld. Okay, so now it reset our effects. So let's add our effects back so that we can create a unique tone. Let's add some delay. Now another feature is we can lock the effects. So if we ever change the sound, we don't have to redo all of our effects. So I forgot to turn that on for the last preset. So let's add it now. And now we're going to take this basic piano sound and take it to a different level. All right, so with that reverse reverb, you get a very fantasy, ethereal type sound. Let's add in some strings in here. So again, these are the free sounds. I'm just showing you guys the free stuff. Now let's say the strings are too heavy, we could turn them down on the layer. We can also pan these left to right. Pan the strings to the left, mallet to the right. Now another feature we've added is a synth layer. So if you guys want to spice up your sound even more, you can add a synth layer in here. We have different wave tables for you guys, not wave tables, but different wave cycles for you guys. So let's add some tone in here. And here's where, well, that sound is heavy. We even have a pitch envelope. I just added this in. So we can add like a Neptune style sound in there, just to separate the sound from the other sounds. Well, as you guys can hear, the sound's getting really big. We also have unison down here at the bottom, so if you crank this up, you get a wide detuned sound here. Okay, so that compressor's clamping down on the sound, so let's turn the compressor down for now. Oh, almost blew up the computer there. Let's turn the synth down. So let's say there's a small detune. So the sine wave is giving me a small detune. We could use the fine tune. to tune it to the specific sample. Again, on this sound, we're kind of trying to overly fill it, but a cool thing about this synth is you can add 2 filters. We have the SVF, which gives it like this bitey digital sound. And we can add a mod envelope to it. So now let's start leveling things. Let's turn down the texture of the birds. They're just a little too heavy. I'm going to turn down one effect, which is the reverse reverb, because I want to be able to hear the tone here. See how we get a unique blend here? Now I could go further with the synth. We're going to keep it there. Another tab that we've added is the one-shot area. So here, by default, if you click library, you can load up our one-shots that are packaged with the actual plugin. Again, this comes with the free version at busyworksbeats.com/sampler. So even if we didn't use the synthesizer or the main sounds, we could go straight to the one-shot area here. Now here's where you got to get a little more precise, because one-shots can be tuned to different things. So here we're just going to pick a random one-shot, and I sampled all types of stuff. So you can go through the library. You can also arrow through to go through your one-shots. And I'm just going to mute everything so we could actually hear. So let's mute the synth and let's mute the layers. And now we just have the one-shot. Now if I change the tuning, we should be able to hear this. Okay, so that is the one shot we're actually hearing. You could change the root note, which changes the actual note, the tuning, and you can get into micro tuning with this tuning knob here. We could pan this the same way we could turn the volume up. You could add unison up here at the top. So like I said, this is like 3 plugins in one, 4 plugins in one on top of all the effects. So I really tried to give you guys as much value as possible for free, because I want you guys to be able to build on this actual plugin so we can create a greater ecosystem for producers. Now on the settings tab, this isn't really something to go over, but you could change the tuning. So for some people were asking me about 432 Hertz tuning the other day. You could do that right here and tune everything down. I'm going to turn the synth off because it really doesn't blend. Okay, so now you can try out different tones you would never naturally try. Alright, so in here, let's say for example on your main tab you have a sound that loops and you hear some kind of click. You can go to the settings tab and change out the loop crossfade and the loop range to try to prevent some of that processing sound. Alright, so sounds are looped directly in the plugin, so you don't have to worry about making a perfect loop inside of your loop editors for those who create looped multi-samples. Now inside the one-shot area, again, we have loop mode, so you can actually loop the one-shot and do things like forward, backward looping. And this creates like a haunted tone. So if I turned off these main sounds here. Now on the front page, I meant to mention we have alternative panning, which is a very unique technique I learned from the Prophet 6, I think it was, where if you turn up the spread knob, you get this left-right panning. So this applies to so now every other hit hits the opposite ear depending on the range. Let's send the effects. I'm not sure if the birds are going through our effects, but let's make sure they're going through the effects so they get reverb. We can also add a low pass, so if it's too bright, we can kind of muffle the tones. So now we're creating our own unique stack of sounds here. So again, this one shot, we can just mess with these loop points. And there's a crossfade, so if you hear any clicks in the one shot looping, you could turn that crossfade up. All right, so we're just creating, you know, sounds that just don't exist. And then we could add an attack. We could add a pitch envelope to our one shot as well. So really unique things we can do per sound. Okay, so we went through all the main features. We're still working on the mod matrix. This requires a lot of logic, and I have to think of things that I normally wouldn't think of in the mod matrix. So that is still kind of in beta mode. We also have a preset browser, so you can mark presets. So for example, you can tag presets if you right click a sound and then label it. So let's label this brass. And now that would be sent to the brass category. So now in the future, I could just quickly jump to brass sounds. So you're gonna go ahead and right click and tag your own stuff depending on how you guys want it tagged. All right, so I didn't do that by default. So we're gonna clear a tag. You can also clear tags as well. So the synth tab, we could spend a different video going through the synth tab. I mean, we have basic things in here, 3 oscillators. We have FM synthesis. We have, why am I going blank? Ring modulation as well. Then we have arpeggiation. So for example, you can just hold a chord and it will arpeggiate up or down depending on how you guys want it. We have a filter section here. We have 2 filters mainly. You can put these in series or parallel depending on how you want to shape the tone. You have an amp envelope, you have a pitch envelope, you have a mod envelope. So you can control different things like the pitch, the crossfade, the wave angle, which is a specific way to look at the waveform, the cutoff frequency. We have LFOs, 4 LFOs. You guys can assign these to different things. We kept it really basic. I didn't want this to be like control anything on the interface because not everything should be, I don't know. I try to keep it a little bit simple. Maybe in the future we'll go and make it to where everything can be modulated. But until then, you know, I just want to keep it straightforward. And at the very bottom, we can shape the overall filter with the saturation modes here. Okay, for more aggression, you go downward mostly. And there's different filter types like high pass filter, low pass filter, your basic ADSR, your filter envelope. You can add quick chorus, quick delay, quick reverb right on that front tab here that kind of follows you per section. So that's the gist of the layout of the plugin. Again, I wanted to make this intuitive to where people could just open it and just be clicking around and figure it out. It shouldn't be complicated to learn. Now, when it comes to sound design, that is a skill and that is a craft. But here's what we've done. So if you hit init, we've created what's called a random mode. So this will create its own preset and it will pick from your libraries that are available. So right here, it pulled some sounds from our Hercules library. But even if you don't have Hercules, it will pull from your existing libraries, random patches, and then it will also layer in a synth and it will layer in one shots as well. So again, it's random. We're still working on trying to make it to where it doesn't get too crazy. Okay, so this is still an experiment, the random mode, but that helps people who aren't necessarily sound designers. Now, another feature I thought of is when people like yourselves as producers want to share presets or share libraries, we have a save and a load feature. So up here, these are for presets. So you can save your own preset. Let's say you make a crazy patch and you want to save it. You can save it right in your directory here. It's basically wherever the sampler is, it has a presets folder. And that's where it stores the presets. So all you have to do to share with your friends is just copy those over and share them. You can load presets the same exact way. Okay, so this loads the BWB presets files. That's our preset file. And then what else can I show you guys? Man, so you could search sounds. So if you hit this little magnifying glass and you're like, man, I remember that sound. One was called like gong or something like this, or like, I'm trying to think of a name of something I've created. Let's say you just type in the word bell. So now the libraries will only sort the bell patches. So here we see the bell category, but also the names with the bell in it. So now I could load up bell sounds just like that. Okay, and I can start tweaking bells. So we do have a search feature. Just make sure you clear the search feature to open up the libraries back to where it was. So now you can quickly just go through, add your reverb delay. Okay, your alternative panning, whatever you want to do to make this sound unique. Again, think of it like a layering. I don't know if you guys ever play Halo 3 where they had Forge mode. Think of it like Minecraft or Forge mode where sounds are building blocks and you can build your own unique sound. So there's no one way to go about this programming process. It's really just based on you guys' creativity. But again, I wanted to make it so that even beginners could figure this stuff out. So let's hit random one more time just to see what it creates. And also I meant to mention we made the interface resizable. Some people ask for that feature. So you can now left click the bottom, and just make this as big as you guys need it to be for your screen specifically. It's pretty dope sound for being random. And so I think the random mode will just unlock you guys' ability to accept things you would never do, and it helps you create a unique sound. So I really thought through this plugin. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff you guys still want in this plugin. Bear with me. You know, I'm a single entrepreneur software company developer now. I've gone through so many iterations of plugins, and I want to thank everybody for being patient over the years for us just trying to have our own platform that we controlled. Again, my story is really just, I tried to play in the big leagues and I got burned by some of the developers. So, and this is no shade to the developer that was on that project. I'm saying burned just mentally. And I was just tired of working with other people to where I couldn't rely on them to deliver and all types of stuff. So this is why I created my own path. Thanks to you guys for being so patient. So over the years, I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give away the sampler for free. So just go to busyworksbeats.com/sampler. Again, this is more than a plugin. This is an ecosystem for music producers. You can create your own libraries. Like, for example, I showed you guys in a different video. I'll link it below. We created this library called Need for Sounds Underground 2. And I showed you guys how to create your own cover art, how to create your own sounds, how to process the SFZ, how you could potentially loop the sounds. We didn't go too deep into looping, but I gave you guys a template, everything. I covered everything about that. So I'll leave a link below for people who want to know that full process, but you can create your own libraries right inside of BusyWorks Beats Sampler. And the greatest part is I'm not trying to be the middleman. So you can literally just put out libraries without me knowing. And you don't have to worry about licensing. There's no weird like iLok situation to where users need iLoks and license codes. All that frustrated me as a music producer, and I don't want to bring that to you guys because it's so frustrating when you have to log into the website, figure out your serial code. Then you're like, okay, I already used all my activations. Then you got to email the company to get another activation. Then they're like, okay, what's your iLok? Then you have to go to iLok. Then you're like, I lost my iLok. Then you're like, okay, and now I have to go to iLok Cloud. And then you're like, okay, am I on the computer with the iLok account on it? It's too many things. It's too much confusion, too much frustration, all to try to prevent people from taking their plugin. But I said, why try to prevent people from taking the plugin? They can build on the plugin. Let me just give them the plugin to build on. That way, if they have it, they don't have to worry about trying to pirate it. They could just have it. Okay. And then you could build on top of it. So it's not even just that you could have a plugin. You could build your own thing on top of this. That's the ecosystem I want to create for the music producer community. And this is my attempt to bring us all together. So thank you guys for watching. Again, if you do want to partner officially, just go to info@busyworksbeats.com. Just email me and just say, hey, I want to partner on the library. You know, if you're a sound designer with multi-samples, the main difference when you partner is, let me show you guys the actual file. So for example, you can right click a library. You can open the folder location. You could remove a library, or you could refresh the library if you have new stuff that you added. So let me just show you guys the difference between some of these libraries. So by default, if we go to the Hercules library, for example, and I go all the way down to the multi-sample layer, these are encrypted files. So I created my own encryption process. Okay, so they're called .bwbs. You can't just copy these to a computer and try to load them up in FL Studio. It won't work. Okay, so this is my way of protecting the sound designers. Okay, so we have the BSFZ, which is the SFZ encrypted, and then we have the BWBS, which is the WAV file or FLAC file, whichever file types you guys use, encrypted, so that people can't just copy and paste these to the next thing. So that's what I can offer as an official partner, is the encryption process, and only my encryption works with the sampler. You can load, however, SFZ and WAV files directly, but the issue is they're not protected. Okay, so that's why I created the system for you guys. Now let me see if I can find the other library. I think we put it on the desktop, and I think we put it in here. Yeah, so here's what files normally look like, the .waves. So we have multi sample layers here with different waves. Okay, and then we have the Need for Sounds Underground 2, and then I think we did just the bells for now, and then we created the SFZ file. So this is the normal file that you guys can just drag and drop into the library tab. Now this is just one SFZ, meaning it will load just these samples, but if you want to load multiple SFZs, what you would do is you just drag this entire folder, Need for Speed Underground 2, you would click where it says Add Library, okay, and then you would just find the folder. I think this is in a different location, so let's go to desktop. And we already did this, so this will be redundant, but add the actual project folder, and it will look at all the folders and figure it all out for you guys. It will categorize the sounds for you. So as you guys can see, we have another library here. This is Need for Sounds Underground 2. Everything's categorized and named, okay? And then you can also rate sounds. If I didn't make that clear earlier, you can also click rating and then sort by the rating as well. And to unrate it, you just click the stars off or the dots off, okay? So that's our system. And then let's say you have duplicates, you can just right click, remove library, just like that. Okay, now to add it back, we could add that folder. And then boom, we're gonna have it back with the artwork and everything. So when you load sounds from different libraries, it loads up the artwork for that library. So if I go to Helios, or excuse me, if I go to Hercules, for example, and load a sound from here, it switches out the background. So I really wanted to make this producer centric and producer focused. So thank you guys for so much support. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/sampler to learn more about this plugin. Again, there's a free version and there's a full version with all of our sounds. Over time, I'll be adding more sound libraries, and this is how I'll be releasing my plugins from now on, is through the sampler ecosystem. So I want to thank you guys. Let's build together, and peace. Share with a friend. Peace, guys.